Welcome to part 2 of the Marduk's Basic Guide. This video will be going over some entry-level strategies. As such, do not consider this the end of the discussion by any means. This is a game of depth, and you'll discover much more than what we discuss here. This is only to get your mind going in some common directions and hopefully get you on your feet quicker. Let's get to it. One of the nastier elements of Marduk is the insane jab pressure. His jabs have above average range, and the various paths you can take are littered with mids, plus frames, and even VTS transitions. It starts simply with 1-2 and 1 down 2. Both are NC and safe. 1 down 2 is a good check for people trying to duck the jabs, but the VTS cancel off of 1-2 is the scary thing. On hit, it's +3 going into VTS, and on block, it's only -3. Unfortunately, while standing 1 doesn't come out fast enough to really interrupt anything, but the good news is that VTS is considered crouching, so you can just wait out a jab and then while standing 1. Either way, he has high crushes and a PC from VTS, so trying to challenge it is really risky for your opponent. Moreover, you can simply continue the jab string and do 1-2-3, or you can simply stop and bait a retaliation. If you're confident you're going to snag a counter hit with 1-2-3, the last hit, which is a headbutt, is guaranteed. Just be careful stopping at 1-2-3 because it's -16. Down forward 3 is essentially a more complex but potentially more rewarding version of the jab string because he can do all the same paths by doing down forward 3-1, which is also a natural combo. Down forward 3-1 does chunky damage for a poke string, so you'll see a lot of Marduks doing this. Down forward 3-1 down 2 comes out really quickly, so even those trying to duck the jab can still get caught if they're trying to go for a big launch punish. Even then, down forward 3, down forward 1 is a mid launcher, still a natural combo if you want to take a bigger risk for more reward. That too has an extension, down forward 3, down forward 1, 2, to make it safe against standard punishes. Although jabs down forward 3 are his strongest strings in terms of raw pressure, he still has plenty of others you can experiment with and catch people off guard, like down back 3, which can also cancel into his tackle, and forward 2. Hell, even his 2 string has a little mix up. 2-1 is high and +3 on block, but for those trying to duck and avoid that disadvantage, he has 2 down 1 +2, which is a 2 jab into his down 1 +2 launcher. Marduk has great 50-50s, but really, the key to all of his moves are that when he hits stupidly hard. You could argue that that alone makes him a top tier character because you always have a chance to make an easy comeback. What's more, outside of a couple very punishable moves, most of his punishable stuff hangs around the -12 area, so relative to the damage he gets in return, he's not as risky as you might think. For example, in terms of lows, down 3 is a great power poke. Fast, good range, good tracking, and 18 damage while only -12. Very few lows will do that kind of damage with that speed and safety. Quarter circle forward 2 is also only -12 and has the potential to give 60 damage on counter hit, plus Oki. Down back 4, full crouch down forward 4, and VTS down 1 +2 also do healthy chunks of damage, although they are a bit riskier. They still give more than enough reward to make them worth it. But his mids and highs are just as stupid. Consider this list: back 4, down back 2, up forward 3, down forward 4-2, down 2-4, forward 2, up forward 1 +2, back 2, forward 3-2, down 1 +2, down forward 3-1, back 3. Not a single one of those does less than 20 damage, which is 1/8 of a life bar, and most of these do more than that, especially on counter hit. Down 1 +2 and forward 3-2 are also the only ones on that list that aren't safe on block, and they're only -12 and -11 respectively, which really isn't that bad for a true mid launcher. Same goes for down forward 3, down forward 1, which is another natural combo launching string at only -12. He's even got a bunch of counter hit stuff sprinkled everywhere, like 1-2 counter hit forward 1. God help your opponent if you have Rage Drive available. Most people are familiar with the tackle, which is simply VTS 1 plus 2. The only complex part of that is that the break window is variable and it depends on how far he's traveled, so the better you set it up, the harder it is to break, and at max distance it's unbreakable, but it's still difficult to break no matter what. Once it hits, there's a three-way mix-up. If you guess right, you're getting roughly grab damage, so 35 to 40, but you won't always have time to do a tackle without getting interrupted, so let's go through his other options. VTS 1, 2, 3, 4, down forward 2, and down forward 4 are just his while standing full crouch moves, but from VTS. In terms of VTS, while standing 1 is probably most notable because it can go back into VTS by pressing 3 plus 4. It's also I11, so very good for interrupting, but feel free to use any of these others like you normally would. For instance, full crouch down forward 2 is nice for evasive purposes. Now, VTS forward 1 by itself is a very solid mid. It's I13, -4 on block, so safe, and +3 on hit. Finishing it though is where you'll get your damage since both strings do healthy chunks. VTS forward 1-4 always knocks down and also tail spins, but ends high. Forward 1-2 is -13 but ends mid. It just depends on your risk tolerance which ones you'll use. Now, VTS down 1 plus 2 is really scary as an unseeable knockdown low. He's crouching the whole time, so it's a direct counter to highs. Just be careful because if it's blocked, the second hit will whiff, so they have all day to punish you. But if it hits, he recovers fast enough that you can go right back on offense. So in a way, it's really not all that different from a Mishima Hell Sweep. Now VTS forward 2 is the power crush option. It wall bounces, so very high reward near the wall. -14 on block though, so you better be confident in your read. Now the VTS grabs have the same input as normal grabs, but the animations are different and they are true 1 and 2 breaks. They give good Oki, but we'll talk more about these when we discuss grabs later on. Just know that you have grab options from the VTS that aren't the tackle. On a final note, if you go into the tackle raw, you should almost always be doing down forward 3 plus 4. It's a little slower, but the arm movement is incredibly useful for freezing people. Oki is a complex topic, so we're not going to dive into the full spectrum here, but Marduk has a couple of unique tools that are worth mentioning. First, his ground throws are utterly absurd. We talked about damage earlier, and these fit right in. When aligned properly, one of them re-slams the opponent on the ground and the other is a launcher. There are a couple of exceptions to that, but this holds true most of the time. These are so strong that many Marduk players are happy doing down forward 3-1 and then going for a ground throw attempt at the wall because the reward is asinine. Grabbing a grounded opponent from the side is similarly silly. He gut punches them and then mounts for a normal tackle mount mix-up. This is all in addition to a couple of ground stomps and a bunch of other ground hitting moves and the normal back catches that a lot of characters have. Probably most notable though is that he has a counter Oki when he's face down. Pressing 2 is a safe mid headbutt that's +4 on hit, and down 2 is a low swipe that on hit goes into a tackle mount. If an opponent blocks his rage drive, this is a mix-up. The headbutt is unbeatable except for very specific options. Marduk is seen in the same kind of vein as a king, so not surprising he has a good grab game. Some of these we've already touched on, but we'll still go through them again. So Craig's normals are fairly standard, give standard damage, good Oki, etc., but you can also use these as air throws. Forward 1 plus 2 is another air throw actually, but it's also a 1 plus 2 break that's a launcher. Very good damage no matter how you land it. Quarter circle back 1 plus 2 is another 1 plus 2 break. Good Oki. I11 throw, so very fast startup. I12 is the norm if you didn't know. Forward half circle forward 1 is another I11 throw. True 1 break and good Oki as well here. Quarter circle forward 1 plus 3 and 2 plus 4 are true 1 and 2 breaks respectively. 30 damage if you stop here, but you can press or mash 1 plus 2 to go into his mount. This drops the initial damage to 20, but you get the mix-up opportunity of the mount. We discussed the VTS throws briefly, but there's a little more we can say here. Although these are 12 frame throws, when you're mixing up your VTS options well, these are incredibly ambiguous because of how his other VTS moves look. For instance, it's tough to tell the difference between VTS 1 and VTS 1 plus 3, or for instance VTS forward 2 and VTS 2 plus 4. They do the damage you would expect from a command throw and give you solid Oki for continuing your offense. A lot of these grabs leave you right in your opponent's face afterward, so take advantage of that. Again, it's too much to cover all the possibilities right now, but you can snag free hits if they get up in certain ways after a lot of these, so play around with the different options. We have come to the end of yet another video. Quick reminder that there are 3 parts to this guide, so once again in a couple of days we'll have the third and last part uploaded. This last section will be Punishers, some starter juggles, and some notable players that you can watch. Otherwise, it's shill time again. Find me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and most importantly, Patreon. Links are in the description below. Patreon is, of course, the golden child. Support on that and help keep the content going and improving. But as always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.